I sit alone on the edge of my childhood bed, the one I've slept in for 31 years, holding a framed family photo from my sister's college graduation. We're all smiling, mom and dad beaming with pride, Scarlett radiant in her cap and gown, and me standing slightly to the side, my smile not quite reaching my eyes. The sound of Scarlett's sobs drifts up from downstairs, punctuated by my mother's murmured comforts. My hands tremble as I place the photo face down on my nightstand. A sharp knock rattles my door, and without waiting for a response, my father pushes it open. The lines in his face seem carved deeper today, his complexion ashen but more tan. "How could you do this to your own sister?" His voice cracks with barely contained rage. "Dad, what are you talking about?" But even as I ask, a cold red pools in my stomach. Downstairs. Now. He turns abruptly, expecting me to follow. In our living room, Mom perches on the edge of the sofa, dabbing her eyes with a crumpled tissue. Scarlett paces between the coffee table and the fireplace, her designer heels clicking accusingly against the hardwood floor. Ethan, her fiancé, stands with his arm around her shoulders whenever she pauses, his face a mask of stern disapproval. "What exactly am I being accused of?" I ask, wrapping my arms around myself. Scarlett whirls toward me, her mascara smeared beneath red-rimmed eyes. "My engagement ring is gone," she shrieks, "the 3-carat diamond that's been in Ethan's family for 4 generations." The accusation hangs in the air between us. And why would you think I had anything to do with that? My voice sounds steadier than I feel. Mom clears her throat. "You were the only one home yesterday when Scarlett took it off to do the dishes. And we found your little saving stash," Dad adds, his eyes never meeting mine. $2,500 hidden in a shoebox in your closet. For a moment, I'm transported back to our childhood, Scarlett and me, climbing the massive oak tree in the backyard, laughing and reaching for the highest branches. Then the image shifts to Scarlett's graduation from Columbia, our parents' faces glowing with pride while I stood in the background, community college brochure stuffed in my purse. Later that night, as I served the dessert I'd made from scratch, I'd whispered my dream of pastry school, only to be met with polite smiles and quickly diverted conversation. "That money is for pastry school," I say, my throat tight. "I've been saving for years." Scarlett scoffs, tossing her perfect hair. "You've been talking about pastry school forever, but never had money before." "We should check pawn shops in the neighboring towns," Ethan suggests, pulling out his phone. "It's a distinctive setting, Edwardian-era platinum with weight." I hold up my hands. "You seriously think I stole your ring and pawned it?" Mom and Dad exchange a look that slices through me, a look of disappointment, but not surprise, as if they've always been waiting for me to reveal my true, lesser nature. Dad squares his shoulders. "You have 48 hours to pack your things and leave this house." The decree lands like a physical blow. I search each face for any sign of doubt, any crack in their certainty of my guilt. There is none. Rain begins to tap against the windows as evening approaches, the warm oak tones of our family home suddenly feeling cold and foreign. With a strange sense of calm that comes only in moments of absolute crisis, I open my wallet and remove the small family photos I've carried for years. I place them deliberately on the coffee table. "I didn't take the ring," I say, my voice steady. "Someday you'll realize that." Mom's tissue doesn't catch her fresh tears. Dad's face hardens further. Scarlett watches with a strange mixture of triumph and uncertainty as I climb the stairs alone to begin packing. In my room, I stare out the window at the gathering storm. The rain falls harder now, mirroring the tears I refuse to shed. My phone buzzes in my pocket, a text from my cousin Jason. "Whatever you need, I'm here." I press my forehead against the cool glass and whisper to the empty room. "Where do you go when the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally believe the worst about you?" The house below me continues to buzz with activity, phone calls being made, rumors already spreading, my reputation dissolving in real time. I pull my suitcase from the closet and begin the systematic dismantling of the only life I've ever known. They've made their choice, and now, with the weight of their betrayal pressing down on me from all sides, I have no choice but to make mine. Rain pelts my shoulders as I drag my suitcase through puddles that mirror the dark sky above. The wheels catch on cracks in the sidewalk, jolting my arm with each obstacle, as if the universe itself is creating roadblocks. My phone buzzes again, the 5th time in 20 minutes. I don't need to look to know it's Scarlett. The thought of her name sends a fresh wave of betrayal washing over me. When I reach Jason's apartment building, I pause under the meager shelter of the entrance overhang, water dripping from my hair onto already soaked shoulders. The buzzer feels cold under my fingertip. It's me, I say, my voice barely audible over the storm. Jason's apartment is small, cluttered with military memorabilia and textbooks from his night classes, but it's warm in a way that has nothing to do with temperature. The couch has been transformed with fresh sheets, a folded blanket, and a pillow that looks newer than anything else in the apartment. A stack of clean towels sits on the coffee table beside a mug of steaming tea. "You're soaked," he says, taking my suitcase. "Get changed, and we'll talk." In the bathroom, I catch my reflection in the mirror mascara trailing down cheeks I didn't realize were wet with more than rain. The woman staring back at me looks like a stranger, her eyes holding a hollowness I've never seen before. When I emerge in borrowed sweatpants and an oversized Air Force t-shirt, Jason sits waiting, 2 mugs of tea on the coffee table between us. "Start from the beginning," he says, and there's no pity in his voice, just steady resolve that somehow makes it possible to speak. My phone buzzes for the 30th time that morning, 29 notifications I've ignored, but this one demands attention. My boss's name flashing on the screen. I answer with a hand that won't stop trembling. "Sofia," his voice catches. "Look, I think you're a great employee. But the Morgans are our biggest donors for the community fund, and Scarlett's fiance's family owns half the commercial property downtown." The pit in my stomach deepens with each word. "We can't have this kind of publicity. I'm sorry." The call ends, and I set the phone down carefully, as if any sudden movement might shatter what little remains of my life. Jason looks up from his laptop, his expression darkening as he reads my face. "What happened?" I play the first voicemail message from earlier, setting it on speaker. A friend from high school's voice fills the room. "Sofia, your sister told everyone you stole from her. Is it true? Call me back." Each message grows progressively worse. By the end, Jason's jaw clenches so tight I can see the muscle twitch. "They didn't just take your home," he says quietly. "They're making sure you have nowhere to go." That night, I scroll through social media, each swipe revealing new devastation. Scarlett's tearful post has hundreds of sympathetic comments. Betrayal and theft within my own family. The person I trusted most has broken my heart. Mom and Dad's subtle reinforcement sits beneath. "We're here for you, sweetheart." Family stands together through terrible ordeals. Except me, I'm not family anymore. But I keep scrolling back through years of photos, our annual Christmas card pictures, Scarlett's graduation, family vacations. In every image, the pattern is unmistakable. Scarlett central, Mom and Dad flanking her, and me slightly apart. Not quite excluded, but not fully included either. "They've been preparing to believe the worst about you for years," Jason observes over my shoulder, handing me a mug of decaf. "Look how they're positioned. It's like they've always seen you as separate." The realization lands with stunning clarity. "Family is supposed to be who you can count on most," I whisper. "Sometimes the family you choose matters more than the one you're born into," Jason replies. Then his phone buzzes. That's Emma. She's bringing groceries. An hour later, Jason's small apartment hosts an unlikely gathering. Emma from the store brings not just groceries, but hugs that feel like lifelines. Jason's friend Marcus offers connections at the warehouse where he works as a supervisor. His girlfriend Tara mentions her cousin needs weekend help at a local diner. As they talk around me, building a safety net I never knew I needed, the contrast sharpens between the family that discarded me and these friends who believe in me without question. The alarm blares at 5 o'clock a.m. I shut it off before it wakes Jason, moving quiet through the unfamiliar morning ritual in his apartment. The coffee maker gurgles as I open my laptop, sending out another dozen job applications before the sun rises. By afternoon, I stand in the back of Rosie's diner, hands submerged in soapy water, scrubbing pots that refuse to surrender their baked-on residue. The work is mindless but honest. Each clean dish represents a tiny step toward independence. "You're overqualified," Rosie had said during my interview, spectacles perched on her nose as she reviewed my application. "But you've got honest eyes. Can you start today?" At the end of my shift, I count out the meager tips shared with the kitchen staff, $12.43. I record the amount in a small notebook Jason gave me, adding it to yesterday's earnings. The growing tally represents more than money. It's the first chapter of my self-reliance. That evening, I walk into the credit union with my first week's pay, heart pounding as I approach the teller. "I'd like to open an account," I say, my voice stronger than I expected. "Just my name on it." The simple act of signing my name alone on the form feels like planting a flag on newly discovered territory. 3 weeks later, the letter arrives at Jason's apartment, heavy cream stationery, my father's law firm's letterhead prominent at the top. My hands tremble as I read, demands to cease harassment of the Morgan family, threatening legal action if I continue attempting contact. Jason reads over my shoulder, his expression grave. They're creating a paper trail. But I haven't even tried to contact them, I whisper, the paper shaking in my hands. They're building a narrative, making themselves the victims. Jason takes the letter, holding it carefully. We should keep this. That night, sleep evades me. The uncomfortable couch pokes at my back as I stare at the ceiling, moonlight casting shadows across unfamiliar terrain. Behind my closed eyes, memories surface. Scarlett at the kitchen sink, laughing about something Ethan said, slipping off her ring to wash dishes. I bolt upright, sudden clarity washing over me. The ring. I remember now. Scarlett set it on the counter edge. I saw it wobble, watched it slide into that gap between the counter and the wall. I'd meant to mention it, but Mom called me to help bring in groceries. My finger hovers over Dad's contact on my phone. One call could end this one simple explanation. Slowly, I set the phone down. They wouldn't believe me anyway. Certainty settles into my bones like a truth I've always known but never acknowledged. Tomorrow, I'll pick up extra shifts at the diner. Next week, I'll follow up on the warehouse application. And someday, I'll build a life so solid that their absence feels less like an amputation and more like a distant scar. My hands cradle the envelope, turning it over 3 times before I dare to rip it open. The warehouse break room falls silent as my coworkers lean in, their coffee cups paused midway to lips. Well? Marcus asks, his weathered face creasing with anticipation. I pull out the official letter and scan the first paragraph. The words blur, then sharpen as my vision clears. I got it, I whisper, then louder. They promoted me to shift supervisor. The room erupts in cheers that feel genuine, not the polite, measured approval I grew accustomed to at family dinners. Marcus claps me on the shoulder with calloused hands. And Janice, who trained me 9 months ago when I stumbled in, desperate for any job, wraps me in a hug that smells of cardboard and cinnamon gum. Nobody deserves it more, Sofia, she says. From dishwasher to warehouse supervision in less than a year, that's real grit. I don't tell her about the nights I practiced inventory systems until my eyes burned, or how I memorized shipping regulations on my lunch breaks. Some transformations happen in the quiet spaces between survival. The apartment key feels substantial in my palm as I climb 4 flights of stairs. My thighs burn by the 3rd floor, a familiar discomfort I'm growing to appreciate. Pain with purpose feels different from pain without reason. Home sweet home, I murmur, pushing open the door to my studio apartment. It's smaller than my childhood bedroom, with one window overlooking a brick wall and pipes that knock when the upstairs neighbor showers. But the first month's rent, security deposit, came from my own earnings, saved dollar by dollar over half a year, no family loans, no conditions attached. I drop my backpack on the futon that doubles as my bed and collapse beside it, still in my work clothes. My fingers find the crinkled newspaper folded in my pocket, the one I've been avoiding all day. With a deep breath, I smooth it open on my lap. Scarlett's perfect smile beams up at me from the society page. Local attorney to Wednesday investment banker in spring ceremony, the headline announces. Ethan stands beside her, his arm possessively around her waist, the replacement ring glittering on her finger. My stomach lurches. I press my hand flat against the cold brick wall until the dizziness passes. Christmas decorations frame their photograph, a wreath in the background, tiny lights twinkling. The holiday season has ambushed me, appearing in store windows and radio jingles when I wasn't looking. For 31 years, Christmas meant Mom's sugar cookies and Dad reading "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" on Christmas Eve, no matter how old we were. It meant Scarlett and I hanging ornaments on the tree, fighting over who got to place the star on top. A knock at my door saves me from drowning in memory. Jason stands in the hallway, holding a small tabletop Christmas tree in a plastic pot, its miniature branches dusted with fake snow. "Thought you might need this," he says, setting it on my kitchen counter, which is really just a 2-foot section of the wall with a microwave and a hot plate. Time to make new traditions. He doesn't mention the newspaper or ask why my eyes are red. This is what real family does. They know when to speak, and when silence is the greater kindness. My apartment transforms slowly, one personal touch at a time. A wall of Polaroid photos grows beside my futon, snapshots of people who entered my life after everything fell apart. Jason teaching me how to change a flat tire, Emma and her girlfriend inviting me for Sunday brunch, Marcus showing me how to operate the forklift. My calendar hangs beside them, January 15th circled in red marker. Beside it, the confirmation email for my night classes in business basics, printed and tacked up as a daily reminder. I'm reviewing my bank statement at my small folding table when I allow myself a rare moment of pride. 9 months of careful budgeting has yielded consistent growth in my savings. Not enough for tuition yet, but a foundation. Evidence of possibility. To Sofia. 6 voices cheer in unison, raising glasses above plates of half-eaten diner food. Emma organized this birthday gathering, my first since the implosion of my old life. The booth at Denny's isn't exactly the formal dinner my parents would have arranged, but the laughter feels more nourishing than any gourmet meal. Open mine next, Jason urges, sliding a small package across the table. Inside is a gift card for professional clothes, for when you start taking over the business world, he explains. Each gift reflects thoughtful attention to who I'm becoming: a cookbook from Emma, pastry tools from Marcus and his wife, even a set of quality knives from Janice, who barely knows me outside of work. I want to say something, I announce, my voice steadier than I expected. A year ago I had a bigger house, but a smaller life. The words catch in my throat, but I push through. Thank you for showing me what real support looks like. Jason raises his coffee mug. To the strongest person I know. The phrase settles over me like a new identity I'm still trying on for size. The fluorescent lights of the hardware store cast everyone in an unflattering glow. I'm comparing different brands of spackling paste to patch a hole in my apartment wall when I spot him, my father, examining electrical switches 3 aisles over. Time slows as he turns slightly, his profile achingly familiar, the same wire-rimmed glasses, the same methodical way he reads product specifications. For a second, his eyes flick toward me, a flash of recognition crossing his face before he deliberately turns away, continuing his shopping as if I'm a stranger. I wait for the collapse, for the pain to drop me where I stand, but my hands remain steady on the spackling container, my breathing even. I complete my purchase and walk to my car where I sit, gripping the steering wheel. Later, I tell Jason, it hurt less than I expected. The realization arrives like a revelation. Your emotional hold is weakening. Strangers can't break your heart twice. Tell us about a time you overcame a significant professional challenge, says the woman on my laptop screen, her voice slightly distorted through my cheap speakers. I'm dressed in the blazer from Jason's gift card, sitting at my folding table now draped with a tablecloth to look more professional for this video interview. Behind me, I've hung a curtain to hide my futon. When I lost my previous position unexpectedly, I begin the carefully rehearsed answer. Flowing naturally, I had to rebuild my professional network from scratch. I started at entry level in a new industry, identified mentors willing to teach me, and earned 3 promotions within 9 months. I don't mention family betrayal or false accusations. Some details don't belong on resumes. The pastry school application sits completed on my table, a small portfolio of dessert photos tucked inside creations from my tiny kitchen, each one representing hours of practice after long warehouse shifts. Recommendation letters from my new manager and 2 clients praise my attention to detail and perseverance. My scholarship essay begins. True strength isn't avoiding hardship, but finding purpose within it. When the notification appears on my phone, acceptance, followed by an offer of partial scholarship, the quiet celebration feels more meaningful than any elaborate party. I touch the pastry school acceptance letter, now framed beside my bed. 2 years ago, they said I'd never amount to anything, I whisper in my empty apartment. For the first time in years, my smile reaches my eyes. The last nail goes into the wall, and I hang the framed acceptance letter where I'll see it first thing every morning. My tiny apartment finally feels like a launching pad rather than a fallback position. My phone rings, an unknown number lighting up the screen. I almost let it go to voicemail, probably another credit card offer. But something compels me to answer. Sofia. The voice sends electricity through my body. My mother. 2 years of silence shattered in a single word. My heartbeat thunders in my ears as I struggle to find my voice. Yes, we need to talk to you. A pause, heavy with unspoken history. Then the 3 words that could unravel everything I've built. We found the ring. I arrive at Riverdale Coffee 20 minutes early, slipping into the corner table that offers a clear view of both entrances. The chair's wooden back presses against my spine as I position myself with the wall behind me, a defensive posture, but necessary. Jason's text chirps from my pocket. I'm parked across the street. 1 word and I'm inside. I type back, I'm fine. Just stay close. When I glance up from my phone, they're already walking through the door, 3 figures moving as a unit, just as they always have. Dad's shoulders slope more than I remember. Mom's hair shows more gray. And Scarlett's designer coat hangs slightly looser on her frame. 4 years carves itself differently on each face. They spot me and falter briefly before approaching. No one moves to hug me. Good. I wouldn't have known what to do with my arms anyway. Sofia, Dad says my name sounding foreign in his mouth after so long. Mom's eyes dart across my face, cataloging changes. You look well. Professional, Scarlett adds, as if surprised. I gesture to the empty chairs. Sit. The vinyl cushions squeak as they arrange themselves opposite me. Mom immediately fiddles with her napkin, folding it into smaller and smaller triangles. Dad's throat works with unspoken words. Scarlett's left hand trembles slightly, her wedding ring catching the overhead light. You said you found the ring. My voice comes out steadier than I expected. Dad clears his throat. Yes, during the kitchen renovation last month. He can't quite meet my eyes. Behind the counter, in that gap near the sink. Scarlett leans forward. I remember now. I was cooking that night, took it off because the dough was sticky. Her voice cracks. I must have knocked it off the counter. We jump to conclusions, Mom whispers, her napkin now a crumpled mess. The words hang in the air between us, inadequate and late. Yes, I say, you did. Silence fills our table. Around us, the coffee shop bustles with normal life baristas calling out orders, the hiss of espresso machines, strangers laughing together. We can be a family again, Scarlett blurts out, tear tracks already marking her makeup, now that we know the truth. I take a slow sip of my coffee, setting the mug back on the table with deliberate precision. From my shoulder bag, I remove a manila folder and place it between us. This is what your accusations cost me. Dad flips it open. Inside are newspaper clippings with my name splashed across the local gossip column. Screenshots of Scarlett's social media posts about betrayal within her own family, a termination letter from my former employer citing character concerns, and bank statements showing my climb from zero to stability. Dad blanches. We can help you get back on your feet financially, I mean. A laugh escapes me, sharp and genuine. I've been on my feet for years without you. You made a terrible mistake, Mom says, her voice small. I need my sister back, Scarlett pleads, reaching across the table. I don't extend my hand to meet hers. I'm not the same person you threw away. Time stretches between us as they absorb this. I watch comprehension dawn in 3 different ways, Dad's jaw tightening, Mom's shoulders sagging, Scarlett's eyes widening. Since you last saw me, I continue, I've been promoted twice, supervised 16 people. I completed my pastry certification with distinction. I have my own apartment. Each achievement lands like a stone between us. I did all of this without a single dollar or word of encouragement from any of you. Dad shifts in his seat. You didn't need us after all. His words reveal how little he understands. I needed you, I correct him quietly. I just learned to live without you. Mom dabs at fresh tears. This time they seem genuine. Scarlett leans forward eagerly. So you forgive us, right? You'll come to Sunday dinner? Mom's making pot roast this weekend. I take another deliberate sip of coffee, feeling their anticipation build. 4 years ago, I would have jumped at this opening, grateful for any crumb of acceptance. Forgiveness and reconciliation aren't the same thing, I say finally. What does that mean? Scarlett's voice rises slightly. It means I can forgive without pretending nothing happened. It means I decide the terms of our relationship now. I meet each of their gazes in turn. No Sunday dinners. Yet. Coffee once a month. Phone calls maybe. We start small and see where it goes. But we're family, Mom protests. Family doesn't evict family on suspicion, I reply evenly. Family doesn't destroy reputations without proof. Family believes in each other. I stand, dropping cash on the table for my coffee. You'll need to earn that word back. I shoulder my bag and walk away, the rhythmic click of my boots against the tile floor punctuating my exit. Through the window, I see the reflections watching me go, 3 faces wearing identical expressions of dawning realization. I am no longer theirs to summon or dismiss. Jason straightens as I approach his car. How did it go? I slide into the passenger seat and buckle my seatbelt before answering. They found the ring, I say. But I found myself. My phone vibrates in my pocket. I pull it out to find an email notification glowing on the screen, the job offer in Texas officially extended. A door opening to a future where I'm defined by where I'm going, not where I've been. Jason raises an eyebrow. Good news? I smile, the first genuine one of the day, the best kind. Options. I smooth my napkin across my lap as my mother refills my water glass for the 3rd time. The late afternoon sun slants through my apartment windows, catching the edges of the frame my pastry school certificate on the wall. 6 months of careful, measured family reconnection has established a rhythm. I can almost predict Mom's nervous chatter, Dad's cautious questions about my job, Scarlett's overeager compliments on everything from my throw pillows to my haircut. Sophia, these lemon bars are divine, Scarlett says, brushing crumbs from her lips. You've always had such a gift. I nod my thanks, the words unlike you hanging unspoken between us. Despite the ring's discovery and their tearful apologies, something essential remains broken. Their sudden interest in my culinary talents feels like discovering water in the desert after dying of thirst. Welcome, but far too late. Your apartment is so cozy, Mom says, her eyes darting to the compact kitchen where I've maximized every inch of counter space. I recognize the familiar pattern, her praise always carrying a hidden asterisk. It suits me, I reply, the firmness in my voice surprising even me. I've made it exactly what I need. Dad clears his throat, the sound I've come to recognize as his preparation for broaching difficult topics. The hospital is looking for a new office manager in billing. Margaret heard about it from Susan Rivers. The pay is better than whatever they're giving you at that warehouse, and you'd be closer to home. Home. The word lands like a stone in still water, ripples of meaning expanding outward. Their home was never truly mine, just a place where I existed in their shadow. I take a deliberate sip of water, feeling the weight of the sealed envelope in my desk drawer, the job offer from Holden Logistics in Austin, complete with relocation bonus and health benefits. The culmination of 6 months of late-night applications and video interviews conducted in my supervisor's office after my shifts ended. Actually, I say, setting my glass down carefully, I have some news. 3 pairs of eyes fix on me with varying degrees of expectation. I've carefully maintained our Sunday coffee meetings, while declining dinner invitations, birthday celebrations, and holiday gatherings. Each boundary I've established has been met with thinly veiled disappointment, each limit tested, like a child pressing against a newly erected fence. I've accepted a position as Regional Logistics Manager for Holden Transportation in Texas. I start in 3 weeks. The silence that follows is absolute. Even the refrigerator's constant hum seems to pause in recognition of the moment's weight. Texas? My mother's voice rises an octave, her hand flying to her throat. But we just found you again. You can't be serious, Dad says, leaning forward. After everything we've done to make amends. Scarlett's eyes fill with tears right on cue. You're punishing us? Deliberately. We've apologized 1,000 ways, and there it is. The immediate centering of themselves in my narrative, my opportunity, my achievement, my future, immediately reduced to a reaction to them. 6 months of cautious reconciliation crashes against the rocks of their self-absorption. This isn't about you, I say, the words emerging with a calmness that belies the thundering of my heart. This is about my career, my future. Your future is here, with your family, Mom insists, reaching for my hand across the table. I pull back slightly, just enough to maintain the physical boundary. There's my emotional one. My hands begin to tremble, not with the old familiar anxiety, but with something electric and unfamiliar. 6 months of measured smiles, careful nods, and swallowed responses surge upward like a tide I can no longer contain. For half a year, I've calibrated every word, monitored every expression, maintained perfect control in their presence. Not anymore. My coffee cup clatters against its saucer as I set it down too hard. The sudden sound makes Scarlett jump. You didn't just accuse me, I say, my voice breaking free of the controlled politeness I've maintained for months. My words come faster, louder, untethered from my usual restraint. You condemned me without trial. You destroyed my reputation, cost me my job, and threw me out with nothing but a suitcase. I stand abruptly, knocking my chair back. My mother gasps. I've never moved so suddenly, spoken so forcefully in her presence. The Sofia they know doesn't disrupt, doesn't demand, doesn't disturb the careful performance of family harmony. I stride to the window, my reflection showing flesh, cheeks, and bright eyes I barely recognize. The evening shadows lengthen across the parking lot as something long buried in me finally reaches daylight. Do you know how many holidays I spent alone? My voice rises with each word, tears I've never allowed them to see, now streaming freely down my face. How many achievements I celebrated without family? The first time I sold pastries at the farmer's market, I looked up expecting to see you forgetting for just a moment that you weren't there, that you chose not to be there. I spin around to face them, these strangers who share my blood but not my battles. My chest heaves with ragged breaths. For the first time in my life, I make no effort to appear smaller, quieter, more acceptable in their eyes. You're not sad I'm leaving. You're sad you can't control my forgiveness timeline. Dad's face hardens, then softens in a way I've rarely seen. Beneath his anger, something like respect flickers. We deserve that, he admits, the words seemingly wrenched from him. Mom dabs at her eyes, but for once her tears seem genuine rather than performative. I'm so sorry, Sofia. Not just for what happened, but for how we've handled everything since. We've been trying to fix us without seeing you. Scarlett stands, smoothing her designer jeans with shaking hands. We don't deserve your forgiveness. This move isn't about forgiveness or punishment, I clarify, feeling strangely lighter. It's about building the life I want, not rebuilding what was taken. The conversation shifts, then tentative questions about my new position, the apartment I'll be searching for in Austin. When they finally leave, the goodbye is subdued, but marked by a new understanding, perhaps the first honest exchange we've had in years. I stand at my sink, washing dishes, watching my reflection in the darkened window. The night envelops the world outside, while inside, the warm lights of my small apartment, my creation, my sanctuary illuminate the woman I've become. My phone buzzes with a text from Jason. Proud of you. Texas won't know what hit it. I smile, touching the frame of a photo taken at my pastry school graduation. Jason, Emma and the others who became my chosen family. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't staying to fight, but knowing when to walk away. I stand in my kitchen in Austin, sliding freshly baked maple pecan tarts into white bakery boxes. Morning light streams through the window, catching on the certificate hanging on my wall, Sophia Morgan Pastry Arts Certification. The apartment smells of butter and sugar of possibility. My phone buzzes with a text from Emma. Sold out again this weekend. I smile as I reply, 30 orders, had to turn people away. The weekend hustle. The business started as a way to keep my skills sharp while working at Meridian Logistics, but word has spread. 3 weekends ago, the food editor from the Austin Chronicle called. The review comes out next week. The kitchen timer chimes, and I slide on oven mitts to retrieve the last batch. These are for Mrs. Hernandez in 4B, who reminds me of what a grandmother should be. She tells stories of her own fresh start in Texas 40 years ago, listens without judgment, and declares my pastries worth the extra insulin. My reflection catches in the oven door, shoulders straight, eyes clear. I barely recognized the woman who arrived in Texas 1 year ago, carrying more emotional baggage than physical belongings. The Christmas tree in the corner is small but perfect. Decorated with ornaments I've collected in my new life, no heirlooms, no history, just fresh beginnings. Jason is flying in tomorrow, bringing a box of snow from Nebraska. So you don't forget your roots, he joked on our last video call. But my roots have changed growing in new soil. Across my dining table are applications from 3 young women seeking mentorship through the Fresh Start program I launched at work. Women facing family estrangement, domestic disruption, financial crisis, women like I was. Family isn't just who raises you, it's who lifts you up, I tell Jasmine, my current mentee, during our Tuesday lunch meetings. Sometimes the hardest thing is letting go of who you thought they were. I seal the last box with a sticker bearing my logo, a simple oak tree with spreading branches. Ironic, perhaps, but the oak in our backyard was the one place where Scarlett and I found common ground. Some roots feed you, others just hold you in place. Scarlett's letter sits on my counter, read twice since it arrived yesterday. Unlike her previous communications, this one contains no guilt, no demands for instant forgiveness. Just photos of Mom's birthday, Dad's retirement party, their new puppy. At the end, a single line. We're learning to respect your boundaries. Too little, too late maybe. But as Jason says, healing happens on your timeline, not theirs. The suitcase lies open on my bed as I carefully pack specialty pastries in travel containers, cranberry orange scones, chocolate bourbon pecan tarts, gingerbread cookies with lemon glaze. Not peace offerings. Gifts. There's a difference. Tomorrow, I fly back to Nebraska for the first time since I left. Not for Christmas, I'm spending that with friends here, but for a brief visit before the holiday on my terms. 3 nights in a hotel, not in my childhood home. My phone pings with an email notification a storefront is available for weekend lease in the Arts District. Perfect for a pastry shop that's outgrowing my apartment kitchen. I've run the numbers with my logistics salary and growing customer base. It's viable. Jason's latest text appears. Just got approved for the transfer request. Texas by March if you'll have me. I smile, warmth spreading through my chest, the universe expanding rather than contracting. The Nebraska air hits my face like a slap of memory as Jason and I exit the rental car in front of my parents' house. frost crunches beneath my boots. My breath forms clouds that dissipate in seconds like so many things I once thought permanent. I backed out of the parking lot, the soft hum of my Mercedes engine rising beneath the cold rain. My hands stayed steady on the wheel, even as my heart slowed to the rhythm of a deep, controlled breath. No more trembling, no more shame. Only me, the woman who stood up from the ashes by herself. Across the street, the lights from the wedding hall still glowed brightly. I pictured the scene inside, forks clinking against porcelain plates, glasses chiming politely, laughter echoing off walls gilded with polite judgment. They had no idea the dinner they were waiting for, the exquisite wedding cake, the fine wines paired with French-style entrees, all of it belonged to me, my company, my call, and now I was taking it all back. My phone buzzed softly. A message from Marco. Staff has cleared the kitchen. We're packing as per protocol, 10 minutes left. I replied with a single line. Good. Maintain silence. No explanations. I slid the phone away and looked up at my reflection in the rearview mirror. No makeup, no evening gown. Just Elena Sanchez, the woman they had no idea they'd underestimated. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I was doing it to reclaim, to remind myself I was no longer the 15-year-old girl standing silent in the rain beside her mother's casket. No longer the college student wiping tables at Denny's before studying through the night. No longer the girl with the taco truck. I'm the woman who built an empire step by step, calloused hand by calloused hand. A delivery van pulled up to the side entrance. My staff stepped out, carefully carrying the 3-tier wedding cake. They worked quietly, efficiently, professionally. No one needed to ask why. The traffic light turned red. The golden glow reflected off the engraved wedding signage, Tyler and Abigail. Maybe later there would be questions. Maybe there'd be blame. But I wouldn't be there to explain. I didn't owe them anything. Not anymore. Kendra could stand there in her designer gown, frowning over the lack of a cake for her Instagram story. My father could complain about unprofessional service. But they'd all fall silent because of Clause 8.3 in the contract they never bothered to read. I turned the music up. Soft jazz filled the car, a prelude to a new chapter. For the first time in my life, I walked away from them without carrying the hurt. Only the freedom. I parked just far enough to observe the service entrance without being seen from the main doors. Within minutes, the silent ballet began. Staff in crisp white uniforms exited in small groups, carrying trays and equipment with the practiced ease of professionals who've done this 100 times. The wedding cake, a 4-tier monstrosity Kendra had likely chosen for Instagram, vanished into the back of our largest refrigerated truck, each layer carefully boxed. A text from Marco lit up my screen. Venue coordinator intervened, handled professionally. I could picture the scene inside, the coordinator's rising panic as she realized what was happening. Kendra's confusion turning to rage. My father's loud demands falling on deaf ears. No one on site had the authority to stop this. Another text. Tables being cleared now. Minimal disruption. I zoomed in with the rear-view camera and caught a glimpse of Javier, I think that's his name, gently loading the last of the crystal champagne flutes into a padded case. Every movement was swift but deliberate. No drama, no chaos. To any casual observer, it would look like standard protocol. My phone buzzed again. A call from an unknown number, likely the venue. Decline. A text from Tyler. What the hell is going on? Ignore. I drove away from this venue, heading toward the quiet hill country outside the city. The sunset painted the sky in colors my mother would have loved, deep pinks fading into violet. She used to tell me, the sky never forgets to change, Elena. Remember, nothing stays the same forever. 10 miles from the venue, I pulled into a scenic overlook. The city sparkled in the distance, distant, small, and insignificant. My phone continued its death symphony of alerts. The weight I'd carried for years, the dismissals, the cruelty, the erasure from my family's narrative didn't quite lift. But something shifted. Subtle, profound. This wasn't a meltdown, wasn't a screaming match. It was business, a consequence of personal disrespect. For the first time in years, a real smile formed on my lips, small, but absolutely real. I took out one of my new business cards, the ones with the embossed logo that took 6 rounds of revisions to get just right, and scribbled on the back. Contract terminated per clause 8.3, discriminatory treatment of ownership. Another call from Tyler. I silenced it and pulled back onto the road, heading home. By now, 250 hungry guests were probably wondering where dinner went. Kendra was likely in full crisis mode. My father, never one to handle surprises sober, was probably camped at the bar. None of them knew who had pulled the plug. The name Elevated Events Catering appeared on the contract, not Elena Sanchez, the strange daughter and estranged sister. The business was registered under my corporation. Marco signed the event. The connection was there, but you'd have to actually care enough to look for it, and my family never did. As I navigated evening traffic, the calls kept coming, growing more frantic. Tyler, the venue, unknown numbers. Finally, my father. Years ago, seeing his name on my screen would have sent me spiraling anxiety and desperate hope tangled together. Now, I connected my phone to the car speakers and let Bach's Cello Suite No. 1 drown out the chaos. Soft, precise, like everything I'd built. Sometimes the loudest statement is the one made in silence. I'm sorry, Elena. 2 days later, we gather in Miranda's office. My father signs the NDA with a fountain pen that scratches loudly in the silence. Kendra's face remains frozen in fury beside him. The matter is settled, Miranda announces. Elegant Occasions remains under Elevated Events ownership. No further legal claims will be pursued by either party. The incident will not be discussed publicly. The settlement costs me nothing, but it saves their pride. I never wanted their money. I wanted acknowledgement. The documents contain no apology, but signatures have a truth of their own. Kendra opens her mouth to speak. My father touches her wrist in warning. She snaps it shut. Elena, my father begins, his voice unsure. I stand, gathering my portfolio. The documents cover everything necessary, I say, voice steady, professional. I extend my hand. He stares at it for 3 seconds before shaking it briefly. Business concluded. 2 weeks later, Tyler meets me at my headquarters. I give him the tour myself. The industrial kitchens, the tasting rooms, the fleet of catering vans emblazoned with our logo. Jesus, Lena, he whispers, using my childhood nickname for the first time in years. 7 figures, 40 employees, all this, while they were... He trails off, staring at the original taco truck displayed proudly in our lobby. While they were telling everyone I was playing restaurant, I finish for him. Yes. He slumps into a chair in my office, running a hand through his hair. Kendra's been moving money, you know, since before the wedding. Dad's retirement accounts, the house equity. I wait. I think that's why she pushed so hard for me to marry into Abigail's family, he continues. Connections, money. It was never about love, and now Abigail and I are looking at houses in Austin. His smile finally reaches his eyes. Fresh start, away from all of it. I nod. Not out of triumph or vindication, just a quiet affirmation of what I've always known. That sounds healthy. At the Anderson Family Charity Gala, our newest client, I glide through the crowd in a simple black dress, overseeing my staff with subtle, unobtrusive signals. 3 society matrons who once ignored me at Kendra's garden parties now compete for my attention. Elena, darling, we must talk about my daughter's wedding, Mrs. Whitfield gushes. I smile graciously and pass her my business card. My events coordinator would be delighted to set up a consultation. Across the room, Tyler and Abigail enter, making their first public appearance since the wedding disaster. Abigail spots me and weaves through the crowd, Tyler in tow. Beautiful event, she says, genuine admiration in her voice. Your staff is incredible. Tyler hands me a small velvet pouch. Found this during the packing, thought you should have it. Inside lies our mother's silver locket, the one Kendra claimed had been misplaced during the move. The cool metal warms in my palm, a small piece of my history, reclaimed. I don't cry, don't gloat, don't need to. I simply stand in my truth, a woman who built an empire while they weren't looking. At the floor-to-ceiling windows of my expanded headquarters, I watch the Dallas skyline soak in hues of amber and gold. The new event space below stretches out in elegant minimalism, copper accents catching the fading light, tables arranged with mathematical precision. My reflection floats like a ghost against the glass, and for a moment I see my mother's eyes looking back at me. 1 year. That's all it took to transform everything. On my desk sits a silver frame, a recent photo of me, Tyler, and Abigail laughing at their favorite restaurant. Next to it, my business license for Elevated Events Catering. No longer seeking validation from people who refuse to give it, I found something better. Peace, in my own skin. My phone buzzes with a calendar reminder. Dinner with Tyler and Abby, 7:30, our monthly tradition. Sometimes quiet, with deep conversation, other times loud, full of laughter and dreams, but always honest. I touch the small pendant at my throat, the only piece of my mother's jewelry that survived the purge. Behind me, on the credenza, sits a photo of the memorial garden I planted at home. Rosemary for remembrance, lavender for peace, all the flowers she once tended, now growing again. Your four à trois is here, Marco says from the doorway. He gestures to a nervous young woman clutching a portfolio. Send her in, I say, turning from the view. And Marco thanks for staying late to prep for tomorrow's mentoring session. He nods, understanding the weight of it. Young entrepreneurs. Kids from broken homes, foster care, or families that mirror what mine once was. Giving them what I never had. Someone who believes in their vision. Last week, my father called. Our conversations are brief, stilted, awkward with too much history and too little practice at honesty. But they happen now. Small steps. His voice no longer slurs. He stopped defending Kendra, progress of a sort. Kendra remains bitter, spreading occasional rumors about my business practices. I've learned to let them slide like rain against glass. My life no longer has room for her opinions. Tyler's found his own path to healing. He and Abigail bought a house across town far enough to escape our father's shadow, close enough for Sunday brunch when the mood strikes. The renewal ceremony they held last month was everything their first wedding should have been: intimate, joyful, honest. My team catered it with quiet pride. I stood beside Abigail as her witness. When several family friends commented, "You all seem so much happier now," I simply smiled. Some truths need no explanation. The scholarship I created in my mother's name will send its first recipient to culinary school next fall. The original taco truck sits in our headquarters lobby, restored, polished, a symbol of beginnings and perseverance. Employees bring their children to see it, telling them, "You can build something meaningful if you refuse to give up." Later, after everyone's gone home, I unlock the bottom drawer of my desk and take out an old photo album. My mother smiles from a faded Polaroid, her arms wrapped around 7-year-old me as we make tortillas together. Her hands guiding mine, flour dusting our cheeks. "I think you'd be proud," I whisper to her image. Not of the business, but of the fact that I stood up for myself. It wasn't revenge, it was respect. The bridges I didn't rebuild weren't failures. They were acknowledgments of foundations too damaged to support anything healthy. I close the album and place it gently back in the drawer. Outside, the stars begin to emerge in the darkening Texas sky. I gather my things, turn off the lights, and head out to meet my brother and his wife. My chosen family waits. Some bonds are forged in blood, others in choice. The strongest are built on respect.